Hi, and welcome to the Optimal Being video blog presented by ConsciousLifeNews.com, your daily source for news and articles about conscious living on planet Earth. I'm your host, Jonathan Willbanks, and today I want to talk to you about the importance of making baby steps as you begin to transform your health and lifestyle toward a more natural paradigm, as you begin to detoxify your life. As I've worked with many clients over the last several months in particular, I notice a few patterns in the way that people react when they begin to educate themselves and learn about how toxic our food supply is and many of the substances that we use in our homes or we put in our body. And I think the first response is fear from a lot of people, and they begin to become terrified of the environment around them. Now, this is a bit tricky because in some ways our environment really can be harmful to us, and our bodies are under assault from foreign substances that our bodies were not designed to work with and assimilate and process well. Many of these substances cause cancer, and so there is a sufficient need to become aware of these issues and take action. But if you find yourself paralyzed and locked in a state of fear, that's going to be very counterproductive. I think so one of the reactions that I see from people as they begin to learn about these things is kind of a, well, what the heck am I going to do? Everything gives you cancer anyway, so what can I do about it? I'm just going to keep on going how I've been going. That's probably the worst possible way that people can respond. But what I'm really talking about is a response that I see from people where they begin to feel very guilty and for what they've exposed their family members to, what they have in their environment, or they become so scared that they feel that they need to change everything overnight. And I actually want to advise against that. I think that when people try to do, if you're willing to really roll up your sleeves and dive in and do a clean sweep and replace all of your cleaning products, all of your kitchen products, all of your food with non-toxic alternatives, great, if you feel that you're really ready for that. But for most people, I think that can be a bit much a bit soon. And I really suggest taking things in baby steps because they're really, ideally, there's probably 40 or 50 core factors in terms of food, household substances, toiletries, personal care products, and products of that nature. It's probably a core group of about 50 products or substances that need to be replaced and phased out. But if you really want to experience a more complete transition, there's probably about 200 different items that you're eventually going to want to replace. And if you can pick one of those things per week to change, so maybe one week it's you change your salt and you replace your Morton's table salt with unrefined salt. Maybe the next week you change your toothpaste and you go with a natural fluoride-free toothpaste. And the next week you change to an aluminum-free deodorant. And the next week you replace your genetically modified vegetable oil that you use for cooking with maybe some ghee or some coconut oil or some other healthy cooking oil. And the next week you replace your tap water and you get a filter system. There are a few benefits to doing things this way. One, you really have a chance to assimilate each step of this process so that you don't overwhelm yourself and burn yourself out. Two, it's a lot more affordable because instead of having to go out and rebuy everything that you consume and use, rebuy everything in your home, you do this in little baby steps. And maybe a natural tube of toothpaste is going to cost you $3 or $4. Maybe a pound of unrefined salt is going to cost you $3. So very, very assimilable, very affordable, and can work with most budget. Now, when you get to, there's a few points that you might get to, like getting a water filtration system. I always recommend that people get a reverse osmosis home water filtration system for under their sink because this is the most cost-effective and convenient in the long run, and those are about $160, $175. Maybe later down the road you get a chlorine filter for your shower head that will take the chlorine out of your shower so you're not inhaling chlorine gas and vapor as you shower directly into your lungs, which have no way to protect themselves against the chlorine exposure. Those are $40, $50. So there are a few of these larger investments that you can kind of space out, but for the most part, most of these changes are very cost-effective, and some of them will actually save you money. So maybe one week you replace your Windex and 409 with a bottle of vinegar and a bottle of peroxide. The bottles themselves are about $1 a piece, and the vinegar and the peroxide cost about $1. So that's another very inexpensive tip. And so again, I'm talking a lot about price here because I think people have this idea that living naturally or living a non-toxic life or going organic has to be really expensive, and that's not always the case. You can do it on a budget. And that's the other thing I want to stress to people is if you have really limited resources and means, focus on what you can. Do your best within your means with what you can handle, and feel good about that. Acknowledge those successes and those accomplishments. Focus on what you're doing right, what you're doing better than what you're doing wrong. I think the gold standard as people are making these lifestyle transitions is to ask yourself each week, am I living a healthier lifestyle this week than I was last week? Maybe you need to do that every 2 weeks. But if the answer to that question is yes, then you're on the right track. And if you can say that, if you can say yes to that answer week after week and month after month, within 6 months to a year, you will have completely and radically altered your lifestyle, but you will have done it at such an incremental pace that you will have barely noticed. You'll notice that you're feeling better. You'll notice that you'll feel really good about what you're putting in your mouth, what you're putting on your body, what you're using in your home. You'll notice your energy levels are probably going to be higher, and you'll notice that you become a lot more sensitive to these toxic substances when you're around them in other people's homes or in stores or restaurants. But at no point will you ever feel like you've really had to dramatically reinvent the wheel, and I think that's a good thing. Baby steps tend to stick, they stay around, and that you get long-lasting change that you can really integrate. When you try to rip the Band-Aid and do everything at once, a lot of people really burn out. So the other thing I want to focus on is this obsession with perfection, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in my next video. But when people start learning about how toxic all these items in their home are, they become obsessed with getting all of the toxins out. Like I said, I'm going to talk about this more in the next video, but I'm just going to tell you right now, you can't do it. It's almost impossible. You would have to spend an extraordinary amount of money and energy to avoid these substances, and even then you're still going to encounter them when you leave your home. So the body is very capable of coping with a lot. It's when it becomes completely overwhelmed that these toxins really begin to affect us. But if you can remove 50% of your most egregious sources of toxic chemical exposure from your lifestyle, that's going to take a tremendous load off your body, and your body's going to be very capable of processing and dealing with most of the remaining stuff. So don't become obsessed with perfection, take it in baby steps, and the guiding question to ask yourself is, am I doing better this week? Am I living healthier this week than I was last? That's it. If you can say yes to that, you're on the right track. Congratulations. I hope this has been helpful. This process does not need to be stressful, it doesn't need to be expensive, and it certainly doesn't need to be traumatic. And a lot of people, I think, feel like it has to be, and they will create that experience for themselves. So I just want to let you know that you don't have to. Congratulations for getting this far, for seeking out information on these topics and taking responsibility for and charge of your life and your health. And as always, I encourage you to leave any questions or comments that you may have for me in the comments section of this video on YouTube or on the original article that will be hosted on Conscious Life News. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel to make sure that you receive my weekly video updates. And I will see you back here tomorrow with another video blog. Thank you so much for joining me today. And until next time, be well.